Have you ever wondered why building real, lasting wealth feels like such an uphill battle? It's this universal challenge, right? Doesn't matter if you're starting with nothing or trying to hang on to a fortune. But what if I told you the biggest roadblocks aren't out there in the market, but actually inside our own heads? Let's get into it.
You've probably heard this old saying before. It basically means one generation builds a fortune, the next one enjoys it, and the third one, well, they lose it all. It sounds like a bit of a cliche, but you'd be surprised how often it's brutally true. I mean, just look at the Vanderbilt family.
So back in 1877, when Cornelius Vanderbilt died, he was the richest man in America. We're talking a staggering fortune. Now, fast forward less than a century later to a family reunion. There were 120 of his direct descendants all in one place. And here's the kicker. Among all 120 of them, there wasn't a single millionaire left. Not one. It's just a mind-blowing example of how fast even the biggest piles of cash can completely disappear. So, what on earth happened? And more importantly, what can it teach us about our own money?
Okay, so here's a great way to think about this whole wealth paradox. Picture your finances like a bucket. You're working hard, you're pouring money in, but there are these little invisible leaks that are constantly draining it. Our job today is to find those leaks.
To do that, we're going to break this down into a few key parts. We'll start with the sneaky financial traps our own brains set for us. Then, we'll talk about the crucial lessons that somehow never get passed down. We'll also get into something called the happiness treadmill. And finally, don't worry, we'll map out a solid plan for plugging these leaks for good. All right, let's talk about the first and maybe the biggest leak. And it's coming from inside the house. I mean, inside our own heads. See, our brains are hardwired with these weird psychological biases that, might have been great for surviving in the wild, but they can be an absolute disaster for our bank accounts.
First up is this thing called loss aversion. Behavioral economists have figured out that the sting of losing something feels about twice as bad as the pleasure of gaining that exact same thing. And that fear, it can totally paralyze us financially. And this is what it looks like in practice. Gaining $100? Yeah, that feels pretty good. But losing that same $100, oh, that feels awful. This crazy imbalance makes us way too cautious, right? We avoid smart investments and just hoard cash, where, you guessed it, it gets slowly eaten away by inflation.
The next mental trap is a mouthful: hyperbolic discounting. But really, it's just the epic battle between your present self and your future self. Your present self wants that shiny new thing right now. Your future self is kind of hoping you'll, save for retirement. Any guesses who usually wins that fight?
It's the classic dilemma, isn't it? The instant thrill of a new gadget today versus a secure retirement decades down the road. Our brains are just programmed to want that immediate reward so much more, making it incredibly hard to delay gratification, even when we know the future payoff is way, way bigger.
So that leads us to the second major leak, a huge knowledge gap. You'd think that financial wisdom gets passed down from parents to kids, especially in families with money. But the research, it tells a completely different and pretty shocking story.
Check this out. In a study of high net worth individuals, we're talking people you'd assume had the best financial education, a staggering 42% said they got zero financial lessons or advice from their parents or grandparents. None.
And when you dig into the numbers, it gets even crazier. Even among the wealthiest, half got no direct lessons. But look at this, the generation that should have the most wisdom to share, the 65 and over crowd. Only 20% of them ever got formal financial advice. This isn't just a gap, it's a huge generational chasm where all this vital knowledge is just falling right through. So here's the bottom line. Most of us don't learn about money from being taught. We learn by watching. We just absorb the habits and attitudes around us, the good and the bad, without ever having a real conversation about how to actually build and keep wealth.
All right, the third leak is a real mind-bender. It's the reason why that big raise or that sweet bonus doesn't actually make you happy for very long. We are all running on what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill.
What this basically means is, as our income goes up, so do our expectations and our desires. It's like clockwork. You get a raise, so you get a bigger house, a nicer car. But you adapt to that new lifestyle almost instantly, and your baseline for happiness just resets at a higher, more expensive level.
And that's the trap, right? You have to keep running faster and faster, earning more and spending more, just to feel like you're standing still. We're also on a positional treadmill, always comparing ourselves to our neighbors. They get a new car, and suddenly we feel like we need one too. It's this never-ending race where the finish line just keeps moving. Okay, so we found the leaks, our own mental biases, a massive knowledge gap between generations, and this treadmill of always wanting more. I know it might sound a little bleak, but here is the good news. Every single one of these leaks can be plugged. So let's shift gears from the problems to the solutions.
Now, the solution here isn't about having superhuman willpower. It's about building a system that makes the good decisions the easy decisions. And it really comes down to 4 powerful steps. 1. Set super clear goals. 2. Automate your savings. Put your wealth building on autopilot. 3. Practice savvy, conscious spending. And 4. Track your progress, because what gets measured gets managed.
And here's why this system actually works. Setting clear goals, that fights that I want it now urge by making your future feel real. Automation, that takes all the emotion and temptation out of saving. And savvy spending and tracking your progress, that creates this awesome feedback loop of small wins that literally rewires your brain for financial success.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Getting and staying rich isn't about some massive windfall or a lucky stock pick. It's about the boring, disciplined, day in, day out work of plugging those small, consistent leaks in your financial bucket. It's about building a system that protects you from your own worst instincts.
And that brings us right back to where we started, the lessons we learn and the lessons we teach. If we're ever going to break that shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves cycle, it has to start with us. So I'll leave you with this question. What is the single most important lesson about money that you will pass on?